is running good for fat loss?
Who asked this question? You don't have to say their name. Is running good for fat loss?
This is actually a question that I just made up to get to something that I want to say.
Okay. I was like, is this a real question? What do you want to say?
I say this with such deep love because I know there are people who really or who really enjoy running and really get mental health benefits from running, and might have been like cross-country runners in high school, and it's their sport and it's their thing, and they have like a deep connection and passion for running. But when I see people who are, let's say, either untrained or beginners, even if they've, done a decent amount of weightlifting over the years, their technique, their exercise selection, like the types of stuff they've done, maybe it's a lot of classes. They're basically, for all intents and purposes, beginners in the strength training world who are overweight, but really enjoy running. I have just seen it be so unsuccessful for fat loss. And it makes sense. If you increase calorie expenditure and hold everything else constant, you should see slightly faster fat loss progress. Not you should, you do see slightly faster fat loss progress. So you would think that running is beneficial. And I'm separating running from cardio because incline walking, riding the bicycle, going on the elliptical.
That's an important distinction. Yeah.
All of these are also forms of cardio that also increase calorie expenditure, that have a marked decrease in injury risk compared to running, especially for someone who is overweight and so more impact on the joints, and especially for someone who isn't like an elite or advanced runner. So the running technique probably isn't perfect. Plus carrying a little bit of extra weight adds the injury risk, which is not good. So that's point one. Point two is, for whatever reason, and I've seen this with many, many people over the years, this type of person, because they enjoy running, ends up prioritizing running over their strength training. And so strength training workouts are getting missed in favor of runs. And then this is purely anecdotal, but I think it's right. There's an element of running where either it's it increases appetite more than the other forms of cardio, leading to higher calorie intake, leading to a net in they're not making additional fat loss progress because of it, or an overestimate of calorie expenditure from running. So it's either an increase in hunger leading to overeating, or it's this justification that because I ran, I feel like I burnt 1,000 calories on that run, so I'm going to add 500 calories on top of my intake. These are all things I see when running gets, and distance running, you can work a little bit in here and there, but for people who want to lose body fat, where running ends up being more detrimental than helpful. And again, it sucks because the majority of these people aren't actually doing it because they feel like they have to. They're doing it because they really like running, but it ends up making it harder for them to make fat loss progress.
Yeah, dude. And I see this with sprints as well. It's not even just long distance. People are like, oh yeah, I did a Tabata, so let's go eat and drink a lot. I'm like, that was like 4 minutes of work. What in how many fucking calories do you think you burned from doing a Tabata? It's not a lot at all. Like, it's brutal. It's super difficult. It's a great high intensity protocol in order to improve your performance in certain events, but you're not burning a lot of calories. And I know like many people run because they enjoy it. Many people do. But I also know many people run because they think it's what they need to do to lose fat. Many people only run because they think, I need to run in order to lose fat. No, you don't. And when they do that and they don't know how many calories they're eating, and they're not strength training, then they will radically overestimate how many they're burning, and they will underestimate how many they're eating. And so they eat back way more and they end up gaining weight. And this is why we see actually a lot of runners struggling with their weight, because they eat way more than they should. Not to mention, they do need to fuel for these longer runs, especially if you're doing a longer run. You need more fuel for that. But if you're not tracking and if you're not aware, then you are likely overdoing it very, very easily. It's not difficult to overdo it at all. So yeah, I think you're 100% spot on. I would say though, like if someone loves running and they really enjoy it, don't stop. Just be aware of how much you're eating. Stop adding all those calories back in, and don't neglect your strength training. That, I think, might be the number one most important thing, is because I've seen some amazing runners who are super lean, and the one common denominator among all of them is they also lift.
Mm-hmm.
Like the best runners that I know who are also very lean lift.
Mm-hmm.
And they're strong. And like, who's a great example of this is Kenny Santucci. I just saw he ran the Boston Marathon. He's done he did the New York Marathon the other day. I think he said he's done like 7 marathons, maybe an Ironman as well. And like the dude is ripped. And he lifts a lot. He's a great Olympic lifter. He's super, super strong. He's a great example of, you can absolutely stay lean as a runner, but if you're neglecting your strength training, you're going to make it infinitely harder to stay lean while you do that. Otherwise, then you get, that like traditional skinny fat, right? Where it's like, well, yeah, I run a lot, but I'm not nearly as muscular as I'd like to be. It's like, well, yeah, you got to do both. Mm-hmm. Shocker. Both is better than either alone.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who only lift would do well to do some fucking cardio, but that's a story for a different day.
Correct. But for that heart health, that's a story for a different day. I wouldn't have that person running. I'd have them do something that's technically less challenging, that's a lower injury risk, that's someone who doesn't run. If you have them start running, they're not going to be in zone 2 anyway.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right? Like they're not efficient enough at it until they've learned the skill better and improved at it. The other thing that's cool is when you take someone who's running a lot and not lifting, and you put them on a good strength training program, and you reduce their miles per week, so they're actually running less, they start lifting, their running performance increases.
Yes, absolutely.
Almost always, which is really cool. They feel better, they're faster, their times get better, even though they're running less, because they've added strength training.
Yeah, that's exactly right.